Hello and welcome in to Point Play Ep.2 on November 17th, 2014. We are now just over 2 weeks into the NBA season, and we have lots of storylines to cover. I'm your host, Noah Taborda, alongside my co-host, CB Garrett. CB, how you doing?
Doing a lot better. Recently cleared to do school activities and can officially drive a car after my concussion, so we're certainly doing a lot better than we were a week ago.
That's good to hear. That's definitely good to hear. Well, we got a lot on today's show. Sacramento Kings. We've got Derrick Rose hurt again. The Christmas Day jerseys. We're going to be playing a little fact or fiction as well, and then we'll have our power rankings near the end. But before that, our Facebook page / Twitter, whatever I feel like doing, still in creation and probably will still be in creation until I get enough free time, which could be a while. Pretty busy right now, but I will try to get that done. And the number to call for today's show, 224-563-8444. Again, that is 224-563-8444. However, you can go like Infinity Sports Network on Facebook and Twitter. Infinity Sports Network is the name. Find that on Facebook. And then at Infinity Sports N, capital I, capital S, and a capital N. That's for Twitter. So,
does it actually matter on Twitter? Is Twitter case sensitive? I actually never do that.
I think if you probably put it in normally, you'll find it too. I don't think there's many Infinity Sports N's out there.
Probably not.
But whatever. Still useful to find it. Before we get into some talking, really quickly, we got some scores, some games in action. The games that have ended: Cleveland loses to Denver. They blew them out about a week ago, but now not quite the same storyline. 106-97. Dallas wins by 27 over the Charlotte Hornets, and Orlando just recently closed out Detroit. Games in action right now in the fourth quarter. Phoenix and Boston locked up at 114. We've got the Heat leading the Nets by 5 with 1:43 to go in the third. Houston getting absolutely blown out just one day after a horrible game against Oklahoma City, 69-62. They won that game. Memphis leads them now.
What kind of score is that?
Exactly.
I mean, this is not college basketball. This is the NBA.
Exactly.
They have James Harden on their team. They're supposed to score 140 every night. That's 69.
Exactly. Not to mention they were one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and they're in the Western Conference where everybody scores. Well, now it's 92-64. They're losing. Once again, nothing going right for the Rockets over the past 2 days, even though they got the win yesterday. Things not looking good on the scoring front or now on defense either. And the final game in action, just coming out of the break, third quarter right now, San Antonio all over Philadelphia, as everybody would expect, 51-37 in San Antonio. And now for the standings, just going to give you the top of the standings right now. In the Central, we've got the Bulls. Coming off a loss against the Pacers. Still in first.
That would be scary.
Oh my god!
Lost against a team that doesn't even have a win yet. That would be interesting.
I would be kind of upset about that, to be honest. If they still, you know what? We're in first. That's all that matters right now. Cleveland can't seem to get it together, though Milwaukee has been relatively intriguing. In the Atlantic, Toronto leads with a record of 8-2. In the Southeast, Washington leads 7-2. So not really many surprises at the top of these divisions. However, in the Western Conference, a little bit different right now than I think people expected. Portland leads the Northwest. In the Pacific, Golden State leads it. And in the Southwest, Memphis at 9-1, coming off of a ridiculous win over the Sacramento Kings on a buzzer beater. And that gets us into our first topic, CB.
Yeah, the Sacramento Kings and Memphis Grizzlies had a game last week that, as you might recall, Courtney Lee, one of the buzzer beater, ball was thrown in and he kind of caught it in air and did a reverse tip shot. And so Memphis ended up winning 111-110 on Thursday. And Sacramento's now decided to protest the game, and they're appealing to the league. The Kings had a 26-point lead in this game and ended up losing. And before the Rockets game tonight, they decided that that they were going to – Memphis was playing the Rockets tonight. But before the games tonight, Sacramento decided they were going to play they were going to appeal the game, and the league has until December 2nd to overturn it. Now, personally, I don't think there's any way this is going to get overturned. It didn't look like the clock started late. If at all, it didn't look like it started very late. So, Noah, what are your opinions on this, though? Do you think this is any chance of being overturned?
Well, I personally think that the clock was a little late, and I think that if they'd gotten on time, it probably wouldn't have counted. But to be honest, it's such a marginal difference. And if I were the Kings, I'm not trying to mess with this, because there are going to be calls that go their way during the season. If every team went out and protested every single wrong call that they felt should have gone the other way, the league would never get finished. It would be, the NBA Finals would be 3 years from now with people trying to protest calls. It's a little bit ridiculous. You lost a game. It's not going to ruin your season. Sure, it may be questionable, but it's your fault for not covering Courtney Lee. I think they're just a little bit upset that they let it slip. That was their second straight game leading by 24 or more and then losing. They're just salty. They wish they had won those 2 games, and they just didn't pull through like they should. And at the end of the day, the NBA is going to move it to the side and say, look, Sacramento, we feel bad for you, but you got to move on. There's no way they're going to overturn this, and it'll count as a win for the Grizzlies and a loss for the Kings.
Yeah, I agree. The NBA, they replayed it. They didn't have any reason to see that the ball was tipped. As one of the things that was looked at before, and then there was no reason for them to say that he didn't get the shot off in 0.3 seconds. Now I remember last year or 2 years ago. I believe it was last year. FGCU had a play like this where they threw a full court shot and they had a tip shot. They got it off, and there was 0.3 seconds on the clock, and they got it off, and they didn't count it because they say the guy actually shot it. You can't get a shot off in 0.3 seconds. But they ended up, I think it was Deadspin or something like that, went back and timed the whole thing, and he actually got it off. And this was by someone who was, if I recall, a fan of the team they were playing, and he reviewed it and said the shot should have counted. So it definitely looks like he was able to get that shot off relatively quickly as well in this situation. So I think there's no way that this game will not stand to this right now.
Yeah, I agree. But we will see how that plays out. Kings have been an intriguing situation this year, as have the Grizzlies. Now we get into a topic that's a little more personal, as me and CB are both Bulls fans. And once again, Derrick Rose is hurt. Injured his hamstring against the Raptors, slipped to the ground. Nobody was really sure at first. People thought it was ankle, then knee. Turned out to be a hamstring. No trainers around him. So you thought, probably minor. Once again, Derrick Rose saying that he will not play until he's 100%. And I have a little bit to say about this. But first, CB, do you think we're ever going to see a healthy Rose again? And can the Bulls really be that competitive without him?
I'm not sure if we will see a healthy Derrick Rose. I think the Bulls can certainly be competitive without a healthy Derrick Rose. Do I think that they're a championship contender? No, I do not. I don't think there's any way that that's possible. With Derrick Rose, I think they certainly could be the best team in the NBA. And watching that game, the Toronto game, I was watching that game, and that injury to Rose was a lot more serious than it was. I thought it was another knee injury or ankle or something. That shoe gave out in a way that it really shouldn't, and I was really scared there for a second. Again, I don't think that one was even completely on him. I think that was something that the shoe should not be doing. And maybe that's something he needs to look at. I know he's in a contract with Adidas, but maybe they need to work on building a better shoe for him. Because I personally, watching that injury, that's something that shouldn't happen on a simple cut like that. And the shoe just kind of gave out. So that was something I was worried about watching that. Now, granted, it was a hamstring and not a knee, so I was completely wrong. And we were actually having arguments about this while it was going on. And it turned out not to be serious. And so hopefully he'll be back on the court soon. Bottom line is the Bulls are not going to be able to make a deep run in the playoffs without Derrick Rose. They need him as much as Pau Gasol has meant to this team this year, and as good as Aaron Brooks has been off the bench, this team is not complete without Derrick Rose, as they still need someone down the end of games to close the game. And as we saw in that Toronto game, once Derrick Rose got hurt, they struggled to close that game and almost lost it. Without him, this is a completely different team.
Yeah, I have to agree. Look, I don't know if we'll ever see a healthy Rose. I certainly hope so. I think we will see a 90% Rose. And I think that's something he's going to have to come to live with. And that gets into my point. Look, I respect what he said. I respect his comments about wanting to be able to walk in the future, being able to walk down when his son graduates, being able to live his life, not be in crutches. And I respect that. I respect that not only as an athlete, but as a man. And I think that's a big thing to say. And I don't like how people bash that. Look, the guy has a right to that. But there is one thing that I just can't stand. And it's when he says he won't play unless he's 100%. And that's something he has to understand that will never happen. Most NBA players are not 100% when they are in the game. Most NBA players, you'll be 90%, you'll be 80%, but he has to learn to live with that. Sure, you won't feel great all the time, and you may be more susceptible to injury, but there's no way you're going to be able to play a consistent amount of time if you refuse to play. Now, if there's a reason they're not doing this, if they're trying to rest him just, so he stays healthy for the playoffs, that's understandable. But the 100% thing isn't going to happen. They need Rose to be on the court. If it comes down to the playoffs, he's 70%. We need him on the court. We can't just wait till he gets to 100% because I don't think we have a player that can really do what he does. Jimmy Butler has been clutch this year, but Rose has experience in the playoffs. He knows what it's like to lose, and he's a winner. That's what he does. And he gets into the lane, he exploits holes, and he makes everybody better around him. You saw it in the Toronto game. We looked great with him on the court, and we looked pretty good without him, but it wasn't the same, and I really hope he gets back to full health because I think this Bulls team has a lot of potential. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this team this year. Finally, Thibodeau with a full arsenal, but once again, the health factor is hurting the Bulls, and just on a personal level, I can never seem to have a team that doesn't suffer injuries. I have Ohio State, Braxton Miller. I have Green Bay, has somebody injured almost every year, and the Bulls with Rose. I have picked the most injury-prone teams. Oh. Yeah. So, moving on. Christmas Day jerseys. And they're going to have first names now. Whew. CB, why don't you kick us off? Your thoughts on the jerseys?
Well, first off, from who I've talked to, I've heard a lot of good things from what people are saying about them. But personally, I'm not a fan at all. They're putting the logo on the front of the jersey instead of the name of the team or the city, which first off to me looks really, really obscure, and I could never get used to that. It just looks too plain to me. And putting the first name underneath the letter, and to me it looks like a European soccer jersey or something like that, where a lot of times they have names underneath the number, which again, it just doesn't look American to me. I mean, I can understand what you're trying to do with putting the first name from the jersey. I don't think it makes any sense because there's certainly plenty of names, plenty of people who have the name John in the case of John Wall, and just putting the name John on your jersey definitely looks, it's not really identifiable, and I just don't like it at all. I'm not a fan of it. I will not be buying these jerseys. I just don't like anything about them. I don't like the logo on the front. Not a fan of the first name, and I can never get used to having the name underneath the number on the backside.
Yeah, look, as they've had some pretty good jerseys over the past years, they've made some good decisions. This is not one of them. First of all,
at least there's no sleeves.
Yes, at least there's no sleeves.
That's the only thing I can say.
That's true. The one thing I can say is I did like the only reason I like the sleeves is because you can wear them as like casual shirts. But if I were to play a basketball game, I'm sticking with a jersey.
I personally, when I play basketball, I cannot wear sleeves at all. I can understand players being upset about this. I understand what the NBA wanted to do with selling sleeve jerseys, like you're saying, because they're more easy to wear. But they're not playable.
Exactly. I mean, there's certain players that like sleeve jerseys, and then there are the other ones that don't. I think they should have a choice. First of all, I'd like to start with the front of the jersey. And just going off of the Bulls jersey. The Bulls logo is right here, right in the middle. Now, I've never been a fan of having the logo here. I think the Spurs did a pretty decent job with it, but even then, I think it always looks like a practice shirt. I think it looks like a shirt you wear during practice. And it just doesn't, I don't like it. I think the numbers really looks a little tiny.